Hello everyone, this is Lisa Keys from Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, home cook and sous vide enthusiast, and today we are making a dessert, a chocolate layer cake, something really decadent for the holidays. And I've worked on this recipe for a little bit because it's very different to make a cake, 6-inch layer cake sous vide versus something in a jar. Now, these jars have their place. When my son was in Afghanistan, a really good friend would make cakes in a jar and mail them to him, and he absolutely loved receiving a cake in a jar. I, on the other hand, do not like cakes in a jar, except if they're being mailed to our military, of course, because I just don't like the shape. I don't like that little tiny dessert. I want a big, nice slice of cake with a really decadent filling in the middle and, you know, some kind of frosting on the outside, especially at Christmas or really any other holiday. So let's get started. You know, it's really like making a typical cake. You're gonna spray your cake pan. I like this Wilton spray, but there's also a brand called Baker's Joy, which is really great to ensure your cake's gonna come out of the pan. I always line a chocolate cake with a piece of parchment paper in the pan. And you know, that's the easy part, that's done. The next thing we're going to do is just mix up our ingredients. And I always start with my dry ingredients, and I pre-measured everything. I measured it on a scale. And this mixture is just flour, cocoa powder, salt, and a little bit of baking soda. And you'll get the recipe with all the measurements. I include both the weights and cup measurements. So if you don't use a scale for accuracy, I suggest you do, but if you don't, you'll have the cup measurements too. The next thing we'll do is, this is brown sugar. You can use light or dark, whatever you like, whatever you have. And we're just going to mix 1 egg into the brown sugar and stir that maybe a good 30 seconds. Give it a good whisk. Then you're going to add the rest of your wet ingredients. I've got buttermilk. I've got some instant espresso. I did a 1/4 cup of hot water, about a teaspoon of really good espresso powder. This really brings out the taste of the chocolate in the cake, along with the salt and the vanilla. They all work together to just heighten the flavor of the chocolate. And then a teaspoon of vanilla goes in, and 3 tablespoons of melted butter. And that is all your ingredients for the cake. Give them a good whisk. I used these measuring cups instead of bowls just so you could see. I didn't have any clear glass bowls, but since these measuring cups were clear, I thought they would work well. Now, you can pour your wet into your dry or your dry into your wet. It makes no difference to me. You weighed out all those ingredients. I really do like scraping every single bowl to get everything in there. Again, just a gentle whisk to incorporate everything. So now I want to show you how I set this up for the immersion circulator. I use magnets to help keep this from floating. I also have this metal tray, which is magnetic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this big magnet and I'm going to stick it in the center of this metal tray. Okay, this is pretty heavy now. Then I'm going to take this smaller magnet and I'm going to put it in the bottom of my Ziploc bag. Now what you can see is you can attach your bag to this tray. And you can take your pan and fit it down inside your bag, right on top of that small magnet. And just try and center everything, okay? Now you can pour your batter into the pan. Fold back your bag. Open it wide. And just pour your batter in. I hope you can see all this. I think you can. The immersion circulator is set up for 198 degrees Fahrenheit, and this cake will sous vide for an hour. Now 198 degrees is really hot, so you don't want to be sticking your hands in there. So now what I've been doing, which is a little different than the initial video I had showed on my blog, is I am going to close up this bag. Before doing that, I put a plate, 6-inch plate, I invert it over the top of the pan. They line up the edges, they line up perfectly, and that just keeps the bag from inverting when we do this displacement method of getting the air out into the batter. So what I did was I just took this apart because I wanted to show you how I displace most of the air out of the bag before putting it in this really hot immersion circulator. So before I actually attach that, I will seal this bag as much as I can, maybe just leave a little corner open. And then this is a bowl of just tap water, okay? I can put my hands in there and I'm not gonna get burned. So I just drop this into the bowl and it helps displace the water. I mean the air, I don't know why I keep saying water. And then when I get that as submerged as possible, I will just seal this little end here. And then you can see, I mean, it still floats, right? It's still floating in there. So I'm just gonna take it out. And I am not opposed to using a straw to suck out the rest of the air as if I am a human vacuum sealer. So I'm going to just open up one little corner because I just want as much air out of here as possible. Let's see how much more air I can draw out. Does anybody else do this? I know, it's so home cookish, amateur. But it works, so I like it. Okay, now I'm going to attach it, and it is ready to go in the immersion circulator. 198 for an hour. This is looking good. We'll be back in an hour. You can see that it's submerged and rather level. So here we go. I took the cake out and opened the bag and let it sit for about 10 minutes. And then with the scissors, I just cut the bag away because I'm not going to use that bag again. Go around the surface, and then let's give it a flip. Hopefully it just comes right out of the pan like it's supposed to, and it does. And we just take that off, and here we are. 6-inch, very moist chocolate cake. I'm going to let it cool completely, and then I will fill it and frost it and show you how it looks. So a couple of caveats I need to share, only because this procedure is not without its risks. The first 5 minutes that you are submerging this cake, stay with it, and the bag can bubble up as that air is released from underneath the plate. So you want to be there to help release that air and continue to keep that cake submerged and level. And a tip from Chelsea Cole, get one of those oven mitts, those silicone oven mitts, because that is very helpful. You can put your hand in that hot water, and that just will help you make some easy adjustments as you go along. I think that's it. If you have a vacuum chamber sealer, I would love for you to try this cake and see if that sort of eases the whole issue of drawing the air out of the bag and then letting it submerge more easily. I think that is the hardest part of doing this cake is getting the air out of the bag, getting the cake submerged, and trying to keep it level. So I wonder if a vacuum chamber sealer would make a big difference in that. So I'll be back to show you the finished cake.